Hey guys, I am so incredibly excited to finally be sitting here in front of you guys. Oh, I don't have my mic on. Hold on. Oh my god. Okay, that should be a lot better. I have not done this in a very long time and almost forgot to put the mic back on the camera. Today I'm going to be going through everything there is to do with how I got the coronavirus and all of my symptoms and how I knew and when I found out and just everything. I also had you guys ask me questions on Instagram that you were curious about, that you've wanted to know about this whole thing, so I will answer your questions as well, and we're just gonna dive right into it because I don't want this to be a 2-hour long video. So I guess I'm just gonna start at the very beginning, and I know I've been posting updates with the vlogs, but I'm gonna kind of treat this as if you are watching this and you've never seen the vlogs and you don't know what's going on. If you guys don't know, I recently just graduated college and I didn't get to have that last couple of months senior year type situation because of course school got cut short. So me and my friends decided once phase 1 or 2 began happening, we were gonna go back to Orlando, which is where I went to college, and have just, a fun weekend out since the bars were reopening. We really didn't think anything of it. We were taking many precautions. I had quarantined 2 months prior. I quarantined the whole time that it was, mandatory or suggested, and I stayed home until phase 1 and 2 began. The first night that me and my friends went out, we went to dinner and we sat outside. We even wore masks in the Uber on the way to downtown. We really were trying to be cautious and take precautions. I had hand sanitizer in my purse, my friends had wipes, we were not playing around and we were trying to be cautious. So we weren't being reckless, we weren't being carefree. After dinner we decided to go downtown and we chose one bar. We only went to one specific bar. We didn't hop around, we didn't go to a bunch of different bars, we went to one bar, and it just so happened that this bar is where I believe I got COVID-19. And the reason I pinpoint it to this specific bar is because myself, along with, at this point, probably 30 other people, also tested positive for coronavirus from that night. Everyone that was there that night ended up testing positive. So, process of elimination, we really just came down to the fact that we got it at this one bar downtown. And there was never a point in my mind when I found out that I had it that I was like, who gave it to me? It was more where did I get this from? Where did I go that I got this? I knew what I was getting into when I went somewhere. There's no one to blame but really, myself. And I don't really even blame myself because I went somewhere that was open. I didn't go anywhere that was not legally open, and I didn't go to a house party. I went somewhere that was legally open. I also just want to point out, and I have already told the health department this, the bar that I went to had no soap in the bathrooms, which should be a health code violation to begin with, which thankfully I had hand sanitizer in my bag, but think about the 40 other people in the bar that didn't have hand sanitizer in their bag.
Disgusting.
And the bartenders were not wearing masks or gloves. So big health code violations, if you ask me, and then add the coronavirus onto it, and that just is disgusting. But that is basically where and how I got it. That's what I believe. Of course, no one's gonna hand me a DVD that I could put into a computer, press play, and see the exact moment that I got it, but I believe I got it in this bar just from breathing in there. Literally. That was on May 29th, which was a Friday. I continued the weekend normal, of course, didn't think anything of it, didn't feel sick at all, at all. On Sunday, we did brunch and went downtown again. So we really felt 100% fine the whole weekend. On Monday, I woke up and was super tired, but I was like, you know what, I just went out Friday and Sunday after not going out for almost 2.5, 3 months. I'm just run down, I'm just tired, not gonna think anything really of it, but I kind of just relaxed in my room all day. In the middle of the night on Monday, which was June 1st, the middle of the night I woke up sweating, freezing, chills, and I knew immediately I have a fever. This is so weird, why do I have a fever? And I woke up Tuesday morning, immediately went to get a thermometer and vitamins and everything because I needed to check my temperature. First time I checked my temperature, I had 99.8. So of course that's not a high fever, but it was enough for me to be alarmed, to be like, something's not right. Why in the world would I have a fever? I still felt really run down, and I just, again, I just kept assuming that it was because I went out all weekend. But the second I saw that I had a fever, I knew I need to go get tested for coronavirus, even though, I mean, yeah, I could have had a fever from anything, but why in the world would I couldn't not go get checked, because how could I go about my life not knowing? I don't know. For me personally, I saw that I had a fever and I knew that I had to go get tested. That afternoon, I made an appointment, and I was able to get in literally that day on June 2nd to go get tested. After getting tested, of course, I had to wait for my results, and I just kind of waited in my room. I do have three roommates in my apartment in Orlando, so I obviously didn't want to go anywhere near them, didn't want to get them sick. I didn't know what I had at that point. I didn't know if it was coronavirus. I didn't know if I was literally just run down. Like, I had no idea, but I still just stayed in my room out of respect for them, of course. And I did write down all of my symptoms that I had. So on Tuesday, June 2nd, I mentioned that I woke up Monday night with chills and a fever. I had a sore throat and a slight cough, but I was still thinking that was from the weekend, from like yelling in the bars and talking really loud. I did have body aches, but I again assumed it was from the fever. And I did kind of feel tightness in my chest, and I had a severe pain like right in the middle of my chest. I almost thought it was like acid reflux kind of, but it was just like this sharp pain like on the bone in the middle. So of course I was still waiting for my results on Wednesday, and that was when my fever went up to 100.8, and that was the highest it got throughout this entire situation. I had a little bit of congestion like in this area of my face, and the first thing that I noticed that kind of solidified for me that I was going to test positive was I had this eye soreness. So if I was like looking straight but then like looked like this, the pain in my eyes was so bad. So bad, like nothing that I've ever felt like ever before. I get migraines and stuff, and it was nothing like a headache. It wasn't a migraine. It was just in the back of my like eye sockets. It was sore, and that's when I was convinced that I had it, and I was just waiting for the results pretty much. I still had the muscle aches because of the fever. I did still have the sore throat and a slight cough. The tightness in my chest went away, and by nighttime I no longer had a fever. So the fever was gone. It was there the first day and the second day, and then I actually never had a fever again throughout the entire thing. And I'm gonna get to why I had a fever in a second, because it's actually not because of coronavirus. So on Thursday, I got the call in the morning that I tested positive, and I was in complete shock. I started crying just because you hear about this so much and you hear about it on the news, and then for a doctor to call you and say, hey, like, you have it, is very scary, and you don't know what to expect. You don't know what that means. You don't know what to do. And I was alone in Orlando. Like, I was up there completely by myself. So right after I got the call, I began texting pretty much every single person I could think that I saw from that Friday night until I got the call. I just didn't want anyone to either go near their parents or go near someone that had underlying health conditions and get them sick. And of course, a lot of people are asymptomatic, so they could be walking around having no idea that they have it. So I just texted every single person that I could think of. From there on out, almost every single day I would be getting a text being like, hey, I'm positive. Hey, I got my results back. I am positive. After you texted me, I got tested and I'm positive. And it was such a ripple effect that slowly every single person that was out in Orlando was testing positive. Even people that I didn't see like on Friday or Sunday that went out in Orlando were texting me saying like, hey, I tested positive also, which that's when I realized it was a massive cluster outbreak where I was. So the day that I found out, which was Thursday, June 4th, so 2 days after after I got tested, were probably some of the worst symptoms. I would say June 4th, 5th, and 6th were like the worst symptom-wise. I lost my taste that day, and that was also, of course, that kind of solidified it for me. Even though I just got my results, I was like, okay, I just lost my taste. This is real, this is happening. Like, I really do have coronavirus. And I got that sharp pain in the middle of my chest again. So it had gone away while I was waiting for the results, and it was back on the 4th. And what I believe the pain in my chest was was anxiety. I believe I was, and I'm not an anxious person on a normal day. I thankfully don't suffer from anything like anxiety, and I guess I was just freaking myself out mentally so much, even though I was trying not to, just subconsciously, I was getting this chest pain from being so scared or anxious, I guess is just the best way to put it. So going back to my symptoms, on June 4th, the day that I found out I was positive, the eye pain was still terrible and got worse. The fever, like I said, was officially gone. Congestion got worse. The tightness in my chest did come back. Throat and cough were pretty much the same. Taste was gone. Had an appetite a little bit, but then like none at night. Just once I lost my taste, I was just so over eating. And then my pain in my chest was so bad at night. The symptoms, anything to do with breathing and the tightness and the shortness of breath, got worse for me at night, like severely worse than in the day. Once it got nighttime, I don't know if it was my brain thinking about it more, I don't know if I was overthinking it, but the pain and the shortness of breath and the tightness just got so bad at night. So now skip to the next day, June 5th. I still had a sore throat, the eye pain was still there, no taste or smell. My smell was officially gone also. I had absolutely no appetite, and I found out that I also tested positive for strep throat. So when I went in on June 2nd, they did cultures for strep, they did a flu test and a corona test. So they did it all. And I had figured when I got the call on Thursday and I was positive for corona that I wasn't going to be positive for anything else. But then I also got the call on Friday that I was also positive for strep, which is where the fever came from. So I am pretty sure, since I didn't have a fever the entire rest of the symptoms, and none of my friends had a fever either who just had COVID, I believe my fever was from the strep throat and not from corona. Hi, so clearly I'm editing this, and I forgot to mention, as you may or may not know, a lot of places are doing that temperature check thing, like with the laser, before you can like enter in a building, or like I know Disney Springs is doing the temperature check before you can go in. But like I said, I only had a fever the first 2 days, probably because of strep throat, and my other friends who tested positive also for coronavirus, none of them had a fever. So I don't really understand what the temperature check does, because like I said, my friends and myself all tested positive, but like we could walk in anywhere with a fever checkpoint because we didn't have a fever. So I just like don't really understand that, and I don't really get how that's like a way to tell if someone has corona. And I think the fever checkpoint is honestly just like a way to make people feel safer, but it really like does nothing. And then again at night, the chest pain was so bad, just absolutely terrible. And I believe this day, June 5th, was the night that I had like a full-blown panic attack and freaked out, because the best way I can explain it, or I think the only way that I could explain like the tightness that I'm talking about, is think about blowing up a balloon. If you were to blow up a balloon to the point where it's like as full as possible, it cannot go any further, and there's like there's tightness, it's like tight from how big it is. But think of that balloon feeling like that just from like 2 pumps of air. So think about taking like just one short breath and feeling like your lungs are like expanded to the max and it is tight. You can't get a deep breath at all, and that was causing me then to freak out. So I would try to like, take a deep breath, or I would just be like breathing, and then I would feel that tightness and I would freak out, and I would literally have basically a panic attack from not being able to breathe, which then made breathing harder. And I could not lay down. If I laid on my back, like on a pillow, just on my computer, it felt like there was an elephant or like something bigger, honestly, sitting on my chest. And then put that with the tightness and the shortness of breath because of the tightness, it was just terrible. So I would sit up because I felt better when I would sit up. And I would also walk around my room during the day just to try to keep things moving and try and keep my lungs from filling up with mucus, which is, I'm pretty sure, what happens and that causes pneumonia, and that's the whole thing with the whole respiratory issues due to COVID-19. And I think that was probably the scariest part of the whole thing, because you sit there and it's 3 in the morning and you literally cannot get a breath of air, and you don't know what's happening. Like, you don't know what's going on inside of there. You don't know. I don't know. I didn't know, is something failing? Is something not working right? And then I would have that pain in my chest. I'm like, is there something wrong with my heart? Like, I didn't know what was going on. It's just really scary. And then of course, while this is all happening, you also have thoughts going on through your head that you're like, what if I'm that one case? Like, what if I'm that one case that, you know, a healthy 22-year-old has a fatality due to this and they don't know why? Or what if you're that one case that has a complication? And it's just, all of this is going on in your head, and you try so hard to keep yourself calm, but it's just, I think the unknown is what the scariest part is. And being alone is also the scariest part. And I am so incredibly blessed and thankful that I didn't have to go to the hospital, because I can't even imagine how, I was in my own room and I was so scared, and I can't even imagine how scary it is to be in a hospital room by yourself alone and not knowing what's going on. Of course, I know, and I did want to say this at the beginning, but I forgot. I know that my symptoms and what I went through is nowhere near what a lot of people are going through, and I'm not complaining about anything. I just really want to bring light to this whole thing and kind of explain what it's like for someone my age that has no underlying health conditions, and to really explain that it's not something to mess around with. Just because you're in your 20s or a teenager and you are healthy doesn't mean that this thing will not take a toll on you. I know people have it way worse than me, and I'm so, like I said, incredibly blessed and thankful that that didn't happen. But I do just want to explain to you guys what it was like. And of course, if you're feeling some of these symptoms, to possibly see this video and think, okay, maybe I should go get tested. I talk way too much. So after the chest pain, it was really bad that night. All I wanted was to obviously come back home. I live about 3 hours from where I went to college, so I was about 3 hours away from home. It was getting really hard to like get food to my apartment door and everything, not being able to leave the room. It was getting really difficult. So thankfully, the house that I'm in right now, obviously this is my normal setup. I am actually staying in my neighbor's house. They don't live here full time. They only live here in like winter. So they were nice enough to let me stay in their home. I'm really not going anywhere in their home besides the bedroom and bathroom. And then of course, after, we are going to have like the whole house cleaned and stuff. But now I am literally right across the street from my parents, which is really nice. And of course, they've been a huge help during all of this, bringing me food and stuff like that, and bringing me things that I need, which obviously would not have been possible if I was by myself. Just knowing that you're close to family when you're going through something like this is the biggest help. You know, God forbid I did need to go to the hospital or something, at least I wouldn't have been 3 hours away. I'm now just right across the street. So now, Saturday, June 6th, I still had the congestion. My throat hurt a lot. I did end up, that was the day that I came back home. I had no chest issues that day, still no taste or smell, and the eye pain was still there. So the symptoms that kind of stayed the longest were the eye pain, the no taste and smell, the congestion, and my throat got better after I was done with the strep antibiotics. And then on Tuesday, June 9th, I still had the congestion, and that's when I started noticing the confusion, is like the best way I can describe it. At nighttime, or like as the day would go on, I would feel just like very out of it, very confused. I would tell people the same story multiple times. I would forget that I told them a story. I would forget what I was like. I would walk into another room and forget what I was doing. And I know sometimes like that happens just on a normal day, but this was like a lot. I would read a sentence and be confused of like what it was saying. Like I couldn't, it just, something up here like was not working right. And I didn't know why. And then I did find out confusion is a symptom. So makes sense. Wednesday, June 10th, I still was super tired and like slow-minded. Like slow is like the only way that I could describe, like the gears in my brain were slow. They like weren't moving at the right speed. I think my mom just drove by. Wait, that's so funny. So Friday, June 12th was officially 10 days since I got tested positive for the first time, and that was when I went to go get my first retest. I had heard a lot that if you don't have severe symptoms, you can go for the first time to get your first negative after 10 days and your second negative at 14 days. So that's what I was planning on doing. So I went and got retested. I had slight taste in the morning, and that was really when my taste came back. Like by nighttime, I fully had my taste back. I was super tired though, like throughout the day, and I really had the confusion and the forgetfulness all day. Saturday, my taste was back for the whole day. That was like the official day that my taste was officially back. I still had confusion, but other than that, no symptoms were left. Everything was gone. And then by Sunday, June 14th, I had officially no symptoms left. So from June 2nd to June 14th, I had pretty constant symptoms. I think I pretty much checked off every single symptom. Of course, they were not severe, thankfully, but I did have pretty much every single symptom that they had mentioned. My second retest was on June 16th, which was officially 14 days after testing positive for the first time. And my family and I really thought that I was going to be negative both days because, like I said, I had no symptoms, like absolutely none. But unfortunately, I have now gotten back the results for both the 10-day test, retest, and the 14-day retest, and I was still positive on both. I don't know why it stopped recording. It was just so mentally exhausting because it was just, again, like that unknown, like that what if I'm that one case. And as of right now, I am that one case that won't test negative. I've had this now for, when you're seeing it, I've had it for 22 days and we don't know why. I have no symptoms, but for some reason I'm that one case that will not test negative. I don't know. It's really scary because no one really knows what this thing is capable of. There is so much miscommunication from the health department, from doctors, from the CDC, which I know is a health department, but I really don't know the difference, to be quite honest with you. I have seen on the CDC website, it says after 10 days and no symptoms, you don't have to get retested. You can go back to work, go about your life, go around people, doesn't matter. And like if you test positive again after 10 days, you're still okay to go places. I have spoken to the health department and they've told me, one person has told me you're good to go after 14 days and no symptoms, even if you're still testing positive. But then I've also had people from the health department tell me, no, even if you're positive after 14 days, you can still infect people and you cannot go near anyone until you get a negative test. And then I've also spoken to my primary doctor and she has said, you can still infect people if you're positive, no matter how long it's been. And why would you take that risk? If you're still positive, why would you risk going around someone and possibly infecting them? So no, you cannot go back to work. You cannot go near anyone until you get a negative test.
More than 14 days, like the risk of it, or like the chance of it is lower, but you still are susceptible to infecting other people.
Okay. So even though it's after the 14 days and I have no more symptoms, if it's still positive, there's still a chance.
Yes.
My doctor did also say that is the reason this thing is still spreading. People are getting information that states, like they're getting information from real sources, real, health department and CDC, whatever. They're getting information that basically says if you're still positive after 10 days, you're fine. Go back to work, go hug someone. And that blows my mind because if you were still positive, they don't know for how long you're contagious for. They don't know how long it stays on surfaces. They don't know. So why would you risk, if you're still testing positive, going around people and possibly infecting them? In my opinion, and from the sources that I have spoken to, the correct protocol is to stay isolated until you get a negative test, even if it's been 10 days, if it's been 14 days, if it's been 21 days, if it's been 40 days. There is still a chance that you can infect someone if you're positive. Also, in my opinion, they're not concerned, and by them, I mean whoever runs this whole thing. I don't know who it is. They're not concerned anymore about people getting it and people dying and whatnot. They're more concerned about our economy. So right now their focus is our economy, and they are basically saying, you know, the risk of going somewhere. We've warned you what's going on. Swim at your own risk. But I just really think that things need to be re-shut down. And that's just my opinion, because it's only going to get worse from here if they don't shut things down now. Now I am going to answer your questions that you guys sent me on Instagram. Stephanie asked, did yours lead to an ear infection too, or was it just my case? I did not get an ear infection, which I could definitely see how you did get an ear infection, I guess because like the congestion. Rachel said, I just want to say you're so positive and an inspiration. Well, thank you. That's literally the whole reason that I've been posting stuff about it. I really just want to shed some light on this whole thing, especially for people my age. I feel like sometimes my generation doesn't seem to take this seriously, and I just want them to understand that it can happen to you and it's scary. And I also think the positivity is like really the only way that I've been able to get through it. I had to stay positive. I had to think of ways to keep myself thinking about other things besides the fact that I had coronavirus. I just wanted to be like a positive influence with my platform. Did your sense of smell come back? Because mine never did. Mine did, thankfully. My smell and taste did come back about after, what was it, like 7 days since I lost it. It took about a week. I have heard of a lot of people losing their taste and smell for months and months after they were even negative. So I guess that's just one of those like longer term effects. Is COVID-19 worse than the flu? So I personally have never had the flu, but I would say it really depends on your case. Of course, there are people that are unfortunately losing their life to this sickness. So, and I know people lose their life to the flu as well. So I guess honestly, I would say yes, it is worse than the flu in the sense of mentally, in the sense of the unknown, in the sense of you don't know what this thing is doing to your body, and you don't know, is there going to be long-term effects? Do I now have lung issues because of this? I don't know any of those answers. So for that reason, I would say yes, it is worse than the flu. It is much scarier. Like I said though, I've never had the flu, so it's kind of hard for me to say. Someone asked, how are your mom and dad? Are they okay? So thankfully, I did not go near my parents at all. I have not been near them at all. And like I said, I'm literally living in a different house. So they did get tested just to be sure, and thank God they were negative. My dad is high risk, so I can't go anywhere near my parents until I am negative. When did you start feeling symptoms? So I started feeling symptoms, I got exposed to it on that Friday, and then I want to say Monday was when I guess I had like the first symptoms. So it took about like 3-4 days for me to really feel the symptoms, which they do say it takes about 3 to 4 days for it to like incubate and start showing. Are you still positive for COVID-19? As of right now, yes. I think I am going to get retested. When I'm filming this, I'm going tomorrow, but when you guys see it, I went yesterday. Yesterday was officially 21 days, 3 weeks since I tested positive. So fingers crossed that it comes back negative, and you guys will be able to see that in the third part to the whole documentary side of it. How does it feel to know that you have / had COVID-19? Very strange, very, very odd, and like it still almost doesn't feel real. I feel like it's one of those things that you see on TV and you see people talk about, but you never think like, oh, I'm gonna get it. Knowing I had it, it's scary because like I said, I don't know what long-term effects this is gonna have. I don't know if anything internally got weird. What were your first symptoms? So of course I kind of talked about this in the beginning, but I would just say that tiredness. And I would say the first symptom of COVID that I noticed, because I really don't count the fever, would be the eye pain and like the eye soreness, because that was weird. Adrian said, how did you get tested? Did you have to pay, make an appointment, call, etc.? So I live in Florida. Thankfully, where I'm at, it's actually been really, really, really easy to get tested. Thank goodness. So the first time I had to call, and I went to like an urgent care type situation, they did take my insurance, but I do believe it is covered with insurance. And then the second test that I did it at like a drive-up location, so that one was free as well. I did call the urgent care to see like, do I have to, am I paying for this? And they basically just said, no, it's through your insurance and like you don't have to pay for the testing. So I do believe the testing is free. Of course, I think it all depends on insurance and stuff like that. Lauren said, were you scared for your life? P.S. I love you and I'm so happy you're okay. Oh, I love you too. And yes, I would say there were a couple of times where, like I said, the nights that I couldn't breathe, I was just in such a panic and I didn't know what was going on and I was scared. That's really the only way I can describe it. I was so scared. And that is pretty much all the questions. But again, I am so thankful that I have, gotten to this point and hopefully I'm towards the end of it. I really just wanted to make this video to have some awareness of the whole thing, especially for people in my age group to know, be careful, be safe. Do not think that it's okay to just go into bars and stuff or even restaurants unless it's like outside seating. I really won't be going into any enclosed area without a mask on after this, just out of fear. And I don't really know the whole situation on antibodies. I really don't know how it works. I don't think anyone knows how it works. Like I said, throughout this whole thing, I don't think anyone knows what's going on. Maybe the government does, but I don't think they're telling us everything they know. Conspiracies. So even if I do test positive for antibodies, I don't think I'm like invincible or completely immune because you never know, and I really would never want to get this again. But thank you guys so much for being here on this journey with me. It of course just makes me feel so much better to be talking to you guys, and that's literally how it always is with anything going on in my life. And I just want to also say thank you for so much love and support on the last 2 documentary style vlogs that I've been doing, just kind of documenting the whole thing. This is the first time that I have put on makeup in like 3 weeks and I actually feel like a person again. I feel like me again. The vlog number 3 will be up super soon and it'll have all the details of what's going on and all the updates. If you still have questions, comment them down below, or you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's just at Nikki Cortland. I've been trying to go through my DMs as much as possible to answer your questions about everything that's going on. And of course, make sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of the updates that are coming. But like I said, I love you guys. Please stay safe and healthy, and I will see you guys super soon with a brand new video. Bye. I just thought that was weird.